Welcome, dear viewers, to our channel. Today, we will talk about our channels, Al Arabiya and Sky News Arabia, which broadcast the Israeli narrative. Since the beginning of the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip, both Al Arabiya and Sky News Arabia have excelled in twisting the facts in favor of the Israeli narrative. What has been stated is not a random accusation, but an observation of the continuous coverage since October 7, 2023. With the escalation of aggression against Lebanon, both channels adhered to the same approach they began in the Gaza Strip, a near-total alignment with what Israel is echoing. With the escalation of the war on Lebanon in September 2024, both channels resorted to directly attacking Hezbollah and relied entirely on Israeli data, without review or accountability. Israeli sources became the primary sources of news for both channels. They also hosted Lebanese and Arab guests whose main goal was to target the party, rather than to follow the aggression and its impact on the Lebanese people. We start with Al Hadath channel, which is a branch of Al Arabiya. A few days ago, the channel's correspondent to occupied Palestine, Iraqi journalist Rafa al-Saad, accompanied the Israeli army on a tour organized for journalists to showcase what it claimed were weapons seized during its raids on Hezbollah centers in southern Lebanon. Al-Saad repeated what the Israeli army said in a live broadcast of its narrative while the bombing continued against the Lebanese. The tour of the Al Hadath correspondent came amid significant controversy over the concept of embedded journalism, and the accompaniment of some journalists with the occupying army during its military operations and invasion of Lebanese territory. Al-Saad's report is consistent with the overall coverage of Al Arabiya. And although its correspondents in Lebanon have been working since the first day of the aggression in targeted villages and areas trying to provide realistic and balanced coverage, what the channel publishes through its social media accounts and on its screen repeatedly echoes what Israel publishes. Such as the insistence that the massacres committed by the Israeli army in Lebanon are limited and focused operations against Hezbollah, as happened in the recent airstrike on Beirut, when Al Hadath published images with the following headline: "Scenes of the destruction left by the two Israeli airstrikes on Hezbollah sites in Beirut," knowing that the two airstrikes targeted residential buildings, resulting in dozens of martyrs and civilian injuries. The coverage of Al Arabiya and Al Hadath of the aggression against Lebanon seems to be a natural extension of its coverage of the aggression against Gaza, which has repeatedly adopted the Israeli narrative regarding the bombing of warehouses and centers of Hamas, while the martyrs were civilians and children. As for Sky News Arabia, its news coverage did not differ, especially through the repetition of several of its programs accusing Hezbollah of hiding among civilians, thus providing a pretext for Israel to bomb civilians, as happened in the Platforms program, for example. The channel also opened its airwaves to Israeli guests, such as former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, to convey Israeli messages live to an Arab audience. Like Al Arabiya, the coverage of Sky News Arabia is an extension of its policy in covering the genocide in Gaza. The channel has adopted the Israeli narrative since day one, and this adoption reached a level of alignment, especially during the massacre at Al-Shifa Hospital, where it published a video, for example, titled, "How Did Hamas Use the Tunnels of Al-Shifa Complex?" As for the general director of the Emirati channel, Nadim Qutish, he has played the role of a mouthpiece for Israeli propaganda since the beginning of the aggression on Gaza up to the aggression on Lebanon, repeating that resistance is the cause of occupation and not the other way around, both in Palestine and in Beirut. Thank you for following us. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like.